Hello, my name is Cheryl Wilder.
And I'm Daniela Aguilar.
And my name is Sochi Paredo, and today we will inform you all on the great impact the Spanish influenza had on the people of the early 1900s.
The Spanish influenza pandemic from 1918 to 1919 affected between 25 to 30% of the world's population, resulting in the deaths of an estimated 40 million people, a tragedy of which the world may never see again due to the advancement of modern medicine. As you can see, this image shows nurses caring for the ill, and you can tell a lot of people were affected. Some symptoms were similar to that of pneumonia. This includes coughing, high fever, and difficulty breathing.
Most people would have assumed that these were the symptoms of a common cold. However, these symptoms would have been the beginning of the end for the individuals who had contracted the Spanish influenza. This is a photograph representing the sad burials of the people that were sadly lost during the early 1900s. Some people could not afford a proper burial, therefore they had to be buried in one single hole.
These mass graves would often lead to more people getting sick due to the exposure they suffered while burying the individuals who passed away. This continuous cycle ensured that the world would experience an even worse tragedy. This photograph is about the doctors that took care of the ill that was affected by the Spanish influenza. They also needed a lot of nurses to help out during the Spanish influenza. Scientists have said that they don't know where exactly it started, but they have a few hypotheses. Places they suggested it happened were Aldershot, UK, Utapes, France, Shanxi Province, China, Kansas, USA, and Spain.
This photograph conveys medics picking up and transferring people that were continuously dying from this outrageous disease.
This photo shows that if people get very ill, they will have to be transferred by ambulance and taken to a different location.
This image shows that the rooms were so small, a lot of people couldn't be treated. Several hundred people often were left in the hallways untreated. This was a true tragedy.
People all across the world had to deal with the lack of medical treatment because the medical field at the time lacked both necessary skills and tools to fight such a large pandemic. This poster was posted by the Department of Public Health to help inform people about the dangers of the Spanish influenza vigorously spreading throughout the countries.
This banner shows the things to do and not to do during the Spanish influenza to keep the city safe and healthy from other people getting affected from it.
The Department of Public Health was trying to think of every way possible to slow the spread of the influenza, even going so far as to fire people for spitting in public and asking people not to kiss their sweethearts. This image shows that they moved people to makeshift medical facilities. At these locations, people were treated for the dangerous disease. This was one of the major triumphs.
Johann Holten was a scientist who found remains of a body and did research, and found what caused the death of the human. The cause of death was the influenza, so he found a cure for it, and to this day less people die to the influenza. Holton was responsible for the founding and creation of a cure for influenza. He had essentially pushed the medical community forward to help fight the pandemic. This triumph was the central point at which the pandemic known as Spanish influenza would begin to be erased.
The next event was March 1918 Spring Offensive.
The 1918 Spring Offensive was a series of German attacks along the Western Front during the First World War. This is linked to the influenza due to the event that happened at Camp Fusten, March 1918. When this happened, 48 soldiers died.
Due to the influenza killing a lot of people, most of the remains would be dumped in a hole and buried all together. You had to be very wealthy to afford a funeral. An estimate of deaths around October was around 195,000. However, the small death toll only applied to the soldiers who were fighting during World War I.
However, Australia wasn't affected until 1919. They were the last to get infected really badly. Many Australians died that day. Most of their population died. By the summer of 1919, healthcare policies and the natural genetic mutation of the virus brought the epidemic to a close. Even so, its effects for those who breathed or suffering long-term health complications were to last decades. Australia was a lightly traveled country, which was a major reason why the Spanish influenza took a great deal of time to spread to the continent. However, this isolation also hurt the population when they had a need for the treatment medicine.
These are some of the posters they put around the town to keep the town healthy and safe from getting more people affected from the Spanish influenza.